Hey everybody, welcome to MT Guitar. Today we have a lesson on how chord progressions work. We're going to dive into not only common chord progressions you can practice in 5 or 6 different keys with demonstrations and examples. We're also going to talk about why they work and how they work, and why they show up as they do. I'll also give you some practice tips on how to practice these chord progressions, how to sort of see how they're working on the fretboard, and how to practice some soloing and scales over them as well. So a lot to cover. Let's jump in with, say, the key of G. Okay, if we're in the key of G, we have 7 notes that are in the key of G. Those are the 7 notes in the major scale. Okay, and each one of the 7 notes can be the root of another chord. All right, so when we say like a G chord, the root is G. All right. So if I say, well, there's also C and D notes in the key of G. Those can be roots of a C and D chord. And why did I say C and D? Because those are the 4th and 5th notes of G major, in the key of G major. So we're not really leaving G major. So if I have a G major, and I say, okay, well, there's a C in G major, I'll make a C major chord. It's the 4th note of G major. So 4 chord is C, and then the 5th note of G major, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is D. So there's a D major. 1, 4, and 5 in a major key are major if we're sticking to the key of G major. You can always break the rules, of course, and leave the key. But generally, 1, 4, 5 is major, and that's because it's inside the key. Okay? So, let's take a pause right there and see what that sounds like. Let's loop it. Okay. Now I've got a 1-4-5 progression in the key of G, and I can play the G major scale over it or the G major pentatonic as a starting place. And I'm really just rooted in the key of G, even though there's C and D chords happening. They're 4 and 5 chords of the key of G. Okay. There'll be a study guide and a tab for this lesson on the Patreon at the $5 a month level. You're welcome to check that out and see if it'll work for you. So, great practice tool is to learn a major scale of a key, say G. Okay, that would be 1 octave. I'm playing with my fingers, by the way, because we took a poll and the fingers won as far as do you play with a pick or fingers. Doesn't mean I won't do other lessons with a pick, but I thought it would be fun to honor the vote there. So you would learn major scale, play a 1-4-5, either on a looper or find a backing track, which I'll be posting some backing tracks on the channel and on the Patreon. But you sort of play along with that and try to hear the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and 5 chord. Okay, how would you hear that? Well, play a G, which is a 1, a C, which is a 4, it's the 4th note of the scale, a D, which is a 5. Now, can you hear those notes without playing them? Da, da, da. Or you could say the numbers 1, 4, 5. Same with every octave. 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. Right? It's all over the neck, right? So, those are the roots of these chords. 1, 4, 5 chords will show up in almost every major key song. They may not show up in the same order that I played them, of course. There might be other chords around them before and after them, or they might be longer or shorter. But if you sort of do a little bit of research into a lot of songs that you're familiar with, you'll find those chords usually. Okay, so we've covered 3 out of 7 notes in the major scale. And that's how major chord progressions work so far. What about minor chords? Well, we have A, which is the second note, B, which is the third note. We already covered the fourth and fifth note, C and D. And we have E, which is the sixth note. Okay? So 2, 3, and 6 are minor in a diatonic sense. So let's see what that sounds like. If I go G, A minor, let's go to E minor. Now we'll go to the 5 chord. Very common progression there. G, A minor. That's a 1, 2, 6, 5. Okay? The 3 would be B minor. We didn't play that yet, but that would be there. So you can practice now throwing in 2, 3, and 6 as your minor chords. And how do you find the 2, 3, and 6? It would be the second, third, and sixth notes of a major scale or of a key. So here's 1, 2. There's 2. It's A. B is 3. E is 6. Okay. So I'd make chords out of those roots. And then with my 4 and 5, I've got now 6 chords to play with. Okay. Let's say we're in a different key, and I want to say I don't want to play all 6 chords. What's the most important minor chord we can play? It's the relative minor, and that's the 6th chord. Okay, the 6th chord is the most common minor chord we see in chord progressions. So in G, that would be E, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can also count down from 8, because 1 is also 8. 8, 7, 6, or down 3 frets. Okay? So let's take it to another key. Let's say we're in the key of D, for instance. All right. Let's find the 4 and 5 chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a G. 4, 5. 4 to 5 is a whole step away. There's A. So 1, 4, 5. Okay. Now let's find the 6th chord. Let's just forget about the 2 and 3 chords for now. We'll find the 6th chord either by walking up to 6 in the key, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or walking down from 8, which is the same thing as 1. 8, 7, 6, B minor. Okay? Either way, it gets you to B. And we know the 6th chord is minor in a diatonic sense. Okay? So let's play let's loop a 1, 4, 6, 5 progression in the key of D and see what that sounds like. 3, 4. Now I'm going to try my D major pentatonic and D major scales over that. Can you hear the 1, 4, and 6, 5? 1, 4, 6, 5. The roots are all over the neck. That's the first note of the scale. 4th note, 6, 5. Let me do a little major. Okay, so a great exercise would be pick a key every practice session and say, you know what, I'm going to play a 1, 4, 6, 5 progression in the key of your choosing. I went ahead and made a study guide on the Patreon, which you can join if you'd like to download it, where I go through, I think, 5 or 6 keys with 1, 4, 6, 5 in different keys. You map out the scale, right? You look at the scale, say, okay, here are the 7 notes of the scale. What's the first note of the scale? It's obviously, if we're in the key of D, it'd be D. Fourth would be G, sixth would be B, 5 would be A. All of them are major except the sixth chord, which is minor. You might try that in a different key. Let's say we did C. Here's a 1 chord, that's a C major. F is a 4 chord. A minor is a 6 chord. G is a 5 chord. Okay, and then play around with your C major scales and triads, arpeggios, whatever you'd like. You try a different key maybe every practice session. What about the 7 chord? We'll end there. The 7 chord is something that some teachers just skip because it's a little tricky. I tend to not want to skip it because, of course, you might feel like there's something missing. The 7th note in a diatonic sense is diminished. So let's go back to our original key. If I play the 7th note, it's F sharp. Go to the bass there, F sharp. And a diminished chord would sound like this. Okay, and we don't really see that a lot. It's a great sound, but we don't see that in popular rock, pop, blues progressions, right? It's not to say don't use it, but maybe it's not the best way to start practicing the 7 chord because we don't see it a lot unless it's classical or jazz or something. So what we end up doing usually is playing a flat 7, meaning we take the 7, and when we flat something, we go down a fret. So we'll go to F, and we make it major. Okay, so let's try a 1-4-5 flat 7 progression. See how it sounds. And that's the 1 chord that we're covering that's slightly outside of the key. All right, so here we go. Excuse me. 3, 4. 4, 5, flat 7. And that flat 7 is a whole step down from the root. Okay, and it gives it a sort of a rock or bluesy kind of sound. So when you're comfortable with 1, 4, 6, 5 in whatever order you choose, maybe throw in the flat 7, and that would be sort of the next step to understanding chord progressions, because a lot of songs will have a flat 7 major chord, and it'll throw people off a little bit because it's not in the key, but it's probably the first chord that you'll see most often that's outside of the key. And all we do is go down a whole step from the root into a flat 7. All right, so that probably will do it for today. I'm going to be talking more about this. There's more advanced ways of looking at chord progressions. And this is just a starter for you. So pick some keys this week. Go ahead and run some common chord progressions in some common keys. And try your hand at the major scale or the major pentatonic in those progressions. Remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell, check out the Patreon if you want to download the study guide, and I appreciate your support. We'll see you next time. Bye.